Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. Had to think about what day it is. Hope everyone's week is going well. And happy May also. Start of a new month. Very exciting. If you haven't seen me yet, my name is Charlotte. I'm on Ramp's community team and I'll be leading today's session. So this is our accounting session, and happy May, Allison. So hopefully you came to our Ramp 101, but if not, definitely encourage you to sign up for that. This is kind of like part 2 of our community onboarding. So like I said, it's the accounting session. We'll talk about how to get your accounting set up, how to start creating rules, coding, automating, all of that fun stuff. But the link to sign up for our other sessions, I'm putting in the chat here. And then also normally in weeks prior, bill pay has been every other week, but we just updated the schedule. So now it's once a week, and that'll be this afternoon at 2 p.m. So you might see me twice today if you're coming to that as well. Cool. And then also I am joined by my colleague Sheridan. She'll be in the chat today answering any questions. So definitely put those in there. And see you there, Brandy. And same thing goes for this session. So everything that I share on my screen, as well as the chat, all of Sheridan's answers, any links she sends, that'll be recorded and sent to you after the session. So definitely go back and watch that and see how we do accounting in Ramp. And hey, Sheridan. And then we'll give everyone another minute or two. We're expecting a few more people, so we'll let those people join before we get started here. But in the meantime, if you want to share what accounting system you use, I would love to see. So if you feel comfortable using the chat, I know some people are already in there. Awesome. Thanks, guys. A lot of QuickBooks Online, NetSuite. We'll be connecting with QuickBooks Online for our example today. So I'm glad to see we have a strong crew. Awesome. Thanks, Jimmy. Thanks, Linda. Thanks, everyone. Okay. Thanks, Cynthia. All right, I think we're good to get started. And if you've just joined, welcome. We are about to start our community onboarding accounting session. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. If you could give a thumbs up or some kind of emoji, same thing as yesterday, to let me know you can see it. Thanks. Love the thumbs ups. And then if you look in the chat, Sheridan is sending some resources about the different accounting systems. So those are great to check out as well. All right, here we go. We'll get started out. So I'm in the accounting tab on the left gray column panel over here with all the settings. So I have just clicked accounting, and then I haven't set it up yet. So I would either click get started now, or I could select someone from my team to set it up. So if I were to click that, I would just scroll through my people and choose whoever is the right person. If I don't see them, I could click invite your bookkeeper or accountant and invite the right person from there. But since we're on this call, I'm going to assume everyone is the right person. So we're going to click get started now. And then from there, we have direct integrations with all of these providers. So QuickBooks Online, QuickBooks Desktop, Xero, NetSuite, Sage, and then Microsoft Dynamics Business Central. If you don't see yours here, no problem. I know someone said they were on Shelby. You'll be connecting via Universal CSV. So you would just click this, and then from there, you would either find your provider or search them, and then you could just type it in. For example, if you don't see it and your provider is called like test, just as an example, as a test, you could just click the arrow and you would be brought to the same page. And then from there, all we need from you is your chart of accounts. So just your segment IDs and all of your category names, and then you'll be within Ramp. You can add additional fields as well. We do have a Universal CSV specific session every other Tuesday. So we just changed the schedule like I mentioned. So that'll now be next week on Tuesday at 11:30 a.m. So definitely sign up for that session to learn about our Universal CSV. But like I said, today we'll be connecting via QuickBooks. So I'm going to click this. I'm going to click connect. It's just going to have me sign in. Oh, okay. Typing too fast. Okay, hold on. Okay. And we're in. My screen might go white, but I'm still here. It's not frozen. So just loading. connecting, as you can see. Okay, and then with QuickBooks Online, I'm prompted to enter in my liability account right here. We'll talk more about what this is and why you have it in just a moment. The other integrations don't ask you to do it here, just QuickBooks Online for whatever reason. So I'm going to choose Ramp Card, short and sweet, 8 letters, 2 words. We know exactly what it is. However, we'll talk more about what this means in just a sec. Okay, and it's loading. All right, so I'm going to give everyone a minute to get to this page if you're following along. Okay, so I'm going to go, so I'm still in accounting. It's just loaded now. And I can see all my transactions. Now I'm going to click settings in this top right corner. So accounting settings is what I'm clicking. And from there, we're going to click sync settings first. So it's the third one in the list, but I'm going to click it first. So sync settings. And like I just mentioned, now we need our credit card liability account. And this is just so when you're looking in your ERP, in your accounting system, and you see all of the transactions made on your Ramp cards, you know exactly what they're associated with. Again, I recommend calling this Ramp card because it's short and sweet. It's to the point. It's 8 letters, not confusing. But if you want to make a longer name, you could call it Ramp Credit Card Liability Account, Credit Card Liability Account, Ramp Liability, like any, combination that lets you know what it is. But why not do the easiest route or the shortest route? So that's why I suggest doing Ramp Card. You know exactly what it is. And then you have this main primary statement account, this payment account. You likely already set this up either like when you first logged in or maybe in the Ramp 101 session. But if you need to change it, you could. I'm just going to stick with this same checking account. And then we'll need an account for our cash back. So this is because cash back is different than your business's other income and revenue. So you want to differentiate it, but it's still money that you're accumulating and that your business is making. So I recommend calling it other income, miscellaneous, or miscellaneous income. We'll stick with other income for today. And then we'll just stick with transaction date there. So we'll click Save Changes. And then we'll bop over to this next one that says reimbursements. And so if you plan on doing reimbursements, allowing your employees to submit reimbursement requests, we will need an account for that. So I'll stick with that AP account and then stick with this same checking account. And then we'll hit Save Changes. Let it load. And then bill pay. If you plan on using Ramp for bill pay, you'll need your accounts here. So we'll stick with that same AP account. And then if you have any foreign currency or you plan on working internationally, you'll need an account for that. Maybe my business doesn't do that, so I'll skip it. And then I'll stick with that same checking account here. And that's what my ACH payments would be pulled from for bill pay if I pay with ACH. So we'll save changes. Okay, so that was sync settings. So I'm going to go back. I'll show you how I got here again. So I'm in accounting. I'm in settings. We just did sync settings. Now I'm going to click this first one that says accounting fields. And so you'll first notice category, which is what we've associated with your chart of accounts. So I'm going to click into this. And right here, you'll see that the name, for me, it's QuickBooks category. If you're not on QuickBooks, it might say accounting category. You can change that name. If I'd rather it be called accounting category than QuickBooks category, I can absolutely change it. Or I could make it even like GL code or GL category. Whatever is going to help best explain to me and my teammates what this is and what I'm asking for. We also have this helper text. So when your teammates and your employees hover over this, they'll know, okay, QuickBooks category, that must mean she's asking for the GL code of each transaction. So I can add that as a helper text. Optional if you don't want it though. And then right here, I have 90 QuickBooks categories, which is a ton, but I know many of you might have hundreds and hundreds, which is even more. And that's a lot of categories. It's probably unlikely, maybe not necessarily, but it's probably unlikely that people are going to be coding to every single category. So if you click this little pencil and paper, we can go in here and you can toggle on and off certain categories that you don't want to be showed. So I can go through and I can say, okay, maybe I don't need that one. Maybe I don't need that one. Maybe I turn off these two. Maybe that's good. Maybe that's all I want to filter out right now. But let's say I change my mind and I do need that one. I can easily toggle it back on. So super easy to change and help narrow down what people are looking at. Okay. And then, so still in the same section, this next part right here is part of Ramp Plus. However, I know we might have some folks on Ramp Plus or people who are curious about it, so I am going to show it. But we're going to click Create Workflow. And from here, we can make these if-then statements. So we can say, okay, if the employee is X, or if the merchant is X, or if the, let's go with Ramp department. So if the department of my company is X, let's go with sales. If the Ramp department is sales, then the only things that will be displayed are, and that's where I can choose. So what does my sales team do? They travel. So I can do travel meals. They do like other types of meals and entertaining. So maybe meals and entertainment. And then maybe they do, they need just like a miscellaneous kind of job expenses for various things that don't fall into these other categories. So from there, maybe I save and close. So now I've said, okay, if the Ramp department is sales, then the only categories that are displayed for these people, so anyone in this department, are travel meals and entertainment, and then job expenses. So it really helps narrow down what people can choose from and makes it easiest for my team. But maybe I don't save that for right now. We just go out of it. And then, so that is just for this specific category. So when I go back, settings, accounting fields, that was just for a category. So just for my chart of accounts. I can do both of those steps for my other fields as well. So vendor, maybe I go in here, toggle on and off different vendors. If I have Ramp Plus, maybe I create one of those workflows. Same thing for customer codes, job codes. Other like popular examples of this are maybe you have only certain people that need to code to customer codes or job codes, maybe like your field workers. You can set specific rules saying that, okay, these are toggled on, these are toggled off, or if you have Ramp Plus, you can make those for the specific departments. But this really helps you like narrow down what people are seeing. So when we get into the coding and making the rules, it'll be easiest for people. Okay, so two more things in settings. So still in accounting, still in settings. We did sync settings. We did accounting fields. Now we're going to click accounting automation. And so you probably heard a lot about like, oh, we'll save you time and money. That's our big thing. We'll automate accounting. This is where you start automating accounting to actually save you time and help you speed up your month-end close, like tangibly speed it up. So this is one place we can make the rules. We'll also make them directly on the transaction level in about 5 minutes here. And then Lucy will get to the danger zone right after this. So great question. So we can make rules based on category or merchant and some other ways as well. But if we're making them directly out of the settings, I'll click into Ramp category, goes to QuickBooks category. Again, for me, it's QuickBooks. It might just say accounting for you if you're not on QuickBooks. So this is saying, okay, if the Ramp category, which is very general, broad, meant to be all-encompassing. They're universally known, universally recognized categories. So you can further narrow them down on your end, but these are meant to really capture everything. So let's go with car rental and car services. So we can say, okay, if the Ramp category is car rental, that will go to travel. Let's say I've made a rule with my team that anytime they spend at car rental companies, it goes to the accounting category of travel. And then same thing with car services. I'll make that if I can type, travel as well. And then maybe I do one more that says, okay, if anyone is spending at alcohol and bars, I know that's going to be meals and entertainment. Like that's the rule that I've set up with my team, that if they're at a place that's categorized as alcohol and bars, it's going to be associated with or coded to meals and entertainment. So I can save those rules. Great. I can also make it at the Ramp merchant. So wherever I'm making the transaction, to the QuickBooks category level as well. So I can click in here and let's say, let's go with Chili Piper. That's a software that my sales team uses. So let's say I know that's always going to be dues and subscriptions. So Chili Piper goes to dues and subscriptions. And so then I can save that rule. Great. Now I've started making the rules. So hold that thought. We're going to talk about where else and how to further make rules in just a second. one more thing in the settings. So gonna go out, show you how I got here again. Accounting, settings, and now the danger zone. And so, Lucy, I know you had that question about what, like why it's down here. And so to answer that, the danger zone. I said this yesterday or last week, whichever one you came to in the Ramp 101 session, but much like in real life, you probably should not touch anything in the danger zone. It's very important to emphasize that message here, because if you disconnect, so if I click disconnect QuickBooks, any of these rules I'm setting, any of these rules I'm creating, any preferences I'll later set to help automate my accounting will not be saved. So you'll always have your sync history and your transaction history, because that's a history log. You can always pull that. But anything that you're doing to speed up your accounting, any preferences or automating that you're setting, like I just said, will not save. There's no way to save that. So only disconnect if you're switching ERPs. And I would also say reach out to someone from our team to let them know that you're switching, just so someone's in the loop. I know someone earlier said they were switching from, I think, Xero to NetSuite. Let's see. I'll go back and find it. Yep, I know Jimmy was switching. So Jimmy, you'll disconnect here eventually when you're switching ERPs, but maybe let someone from the team know, just in case you have any questions. Okay, cool. So that's everything in settings. So okay, accounting, settings, that's where we just were. Now, excuse me, we're back in this main page. And so you can see all of your transactions, and they line up with the transactions in your expenses as well. And when we're looking at all of them, I can't really do anything with them yet, because if I try to check them off over here, I can't, because the QuickBooks category is required in bright red letters. I can't do anything. I physically can't click it because I have to choose that QuickBooks category. And so when we're talking about coding, it's just choosing the accounting category on every transaction. So if I'm going through this here, I clearly have to choose one. It's required. So let's say, okay, let's look at these. Great. Let's say United Airlines, I want to code that to travel. So I can go here, I can type in travel, and I can select that. So great. I've selected it for the one transaction, and now this check mark, I'm able to check it. It says mark ready to sync. The other ones are still in red. I still cannot check them off. But if I'm ready to mark this as ready to mark it as ready, I can click it. And now it goes up to that sync all button. So previously that was blank. I didn't have anything in there, but I just marked that transaction as ready. So I can click sync all. However, this would get pretty tedious to do for every single transaction. Like, that's not really speeding anything up. There's no rules. There's no automating. That's just clicking a transaction or clicking a category for every transaction. So this is where the rules come in. And again, you can make them in the settings how we just made them, but you can also make them at the transaction level, which is pretty fun. So let's find something that we want to make a rule for. Let's say I have a lot of Amazon transactions, and I want to make a rule for the merchant of Amazon. And I want to say anytime it's Amazon, it's going to be coded to dues and subscriptions. So great. How do I do that? So instead of clicking dues and subscriptions on this individual transaction, I'll hover over this lightning bolt right here and click create rule. And so I'm brought to this page where now I can make a rule based on the merchant, the category, anything like that. But we want to stick with the merchant. So we want to say Amazon goes to dues and subscriptions. So I can create that rule. Now, as you can see, it applied to both of these transactions. I can mark them both as ready. I know we had some Amazon ones up above. Right here, both of those are marked as dues and subscriptions as well, because I applied that rule to any Amazon transaction. I'm sure I have others down here. Here's another one. Oh, and there's probably some more floating around. Oh, here we go. Two more. Okay, great. Oh, and two more. Okay, a ton of Amazon transactions. So great. As you can see, that sync all button, it started at 0, now it's at 10. So with just one rule, I'm already in the double digits. Oh, well, it went down to 8. But anyways, I think there was a duplicate. Regardless, it's growing. So that's how you make them at the merchant level. I can also make them at the category level, which again, categories, broad, meant to be all-encompassing. And you can see right here, this one is restaurants. This has been categorized as advertising. This is SaaS and software. Let's make a rule for advertising. and say anytime the ramp category is advertising, so anytime a transaction is categorized as advertising, it'll be coded to or associated with the accounting category of advertising. So I can go here and make that rule. Again, not clicking it on the individual transaction, but hovering over the lightning bolt. So I can say, okay, if the transaction includes the category, so the ramp category of advertising, it'll be associated with or coded to the QuickBooks category of advertising. So I can create that rule. And now that should apply to any transaction at a merchant, doesn't matter which one, as long as it's categorized as advertising. So we have Capterra, we have Facebook ads, mark both of those as ready, Facebook ads, another Facebook ads, another Facebook ads. I know we usually have maybe some Google ads in here. Let's see, we'll just go through all of these. Okay, great. So we're really getting through them, or we're starting to. Let's see if we have any at the top. Okay, great. Oh, here's another one, Google Ads. Great. So now we're at 19 transactions, which is pretty good. We started with 0. Now we're at 19 with just 2 rules that we've made. We can also make it at the card level. So let's say maybe this one, I want to be dues and subscriptions. Let's check really quick. No, I'm looking for a specific card. One sec. With this one. Okay, so let's say that I have this SaaS card. And this card is used for any SaaS subscription, software subscription, any SaaS dues, anything like that where it's like a recurring SaaS payment, basically. So if this card is used, I want to make a rule that says, okay, if this card is used on the transaction, it's going to be associated with or coded to the accounting, or in my case, the QuickBooks category of dues and subscriptions. So I can create rule, and then card rules take just a second to load. Okay, and so I have to go back to accounting. It took me to cards. So now that should apply to any transactions on the card. So here's one segment. That's another SaaS and software. That card would have been used. There's another one. Here's 2 more. Here's another one. So great. I'm really getting through. Okay, and I'll mark all of these off as well. So I'm really getting through all of my transactions. And the goal here for this whole page is to get the page blank. If this page is blank, that means all of these transactions have been coded successfully and then also synced over to your ERP successfully. So that means they have left Ramp essentially. And sometimes we get this question like, okay, if they leave Ramp, like, will I still be able to view them? Yes, few answers to that question. One is that they'll always still be in your expenses tab. So these are the same transactions and they don't leave the expenses tab. However, the accounting tab, when the transactions are in the accounting tab, the goal is for them to leave. That means they've been synced over to your accounting system. So again, goal is to get this whole page blank. That means you've successfully coded everything and you've successfully synced everything over. So we've seen how we can make those rules and we know that we're checking them off. We're getting through. And now I have 30 different transactions in my sync all button. So if I'm ready to click sync all, I'll click that. Excuse me, I have allergies and my throat is getting kind of shaky. So if anyone else has allergies and they're kind of tough right now, I feel your pain. But this review and sync section is the last place to review everything before you sync it over. And so you really want to make sure that, okay, these are all good to go. They have any requirements. So maybe they need receipts, maybe they need memos, maybe you require something else. You just want to make sure that everything is good to go. It's really the last place to review them before you sync them over. So I'll go through and ignore that, you know, some of them say flagged or anything for my case. Don't ignore that in yours. And great, let's say this one is pretty big and it's been flagged. So I just want to chat with Calvin to make sure this is correct and it looks good to go. So I can mark it as unready. And by unchecking it and marking it as unready, it'll go back into this transactions page for me to review again and then recategorize it maybe and then remark it as ready and then eventually sync it over. So if I want to unmark that one as ready, again, marking as unready, unchecking it, goes back into the transactions page for me to review again. Let's say the rest of these are good to go. Maybe everything else is counted for, they all look correct, and I've coded them correctly as well. Then it would be time to sync it over. So I could click Sync to QuickBooks. And that will take just a sec. As you can see, it's syncing 29 transactions. So we'll just give it a sec here. So completing. Great. So we've successfully synced 29 transactions. Whoa. Usually there used to be like confetti that popped up, but I think that has been removed. But whoa, we successfully synced them. Gonna look at the chat really quick before we move on. Thanks for all these questions, guys. And Sheridan, thanks for all the answers. Okay. Aaron, I see that question about all of the symbols. So those are great questions as well. And we can hover over, not hover over, we can explain those in just a sec as well. Awesome. Okay, so a few more things right here. So great, we successfully synced that over. Now what? Like, where do I see it? If I want to see all of my sync history, I'll click these three little dots right here and click Sync History. And this would show me all of my sync history. My demo account, it's a fake company. I also am named David in my demo account, David Wallace. I only have the one from today. However, in your real accounts, you would have all of your sync history, your syncs. And if you click into it, you can download the CSV. So when you sync it over, that all goes into your accounting system. But if you're thinking like in a few weeks or months and you want to download the CSV for some reason, you can go in here. So again, I am in the three dots. I'm in sync history. I have clicked into the sync itself, and I would click download CSV, and that would download a CSV file of all of my coded transactions. So great to be aware of as well. Okay, and then for that question about all of these little symbols here, so these are saying that someone needs to review it. So if I click it here, I could approve it. Since I am an admin in my account, I have that power. However, not everyone would have that power if you're not an approver, basically. And then these little icons over here, I don't think I mentioned, but this one, the calendar icon, you can filter by specific date. So if you're looking for just transactions from maybe like your current statement or just transactions from like your previous statement, you can filter by those dates, or you can make a custom range as well. Like say you want to see like a specific week or something, you could do that as well. And then this button, you can move around the different columns. So let's say you want to see transaction date, you can add that. Let's say you want to see that before accounting date for whatever reason, you can switch those, and now that's the view. Let's say we want to switch it back. Boom, switches it back. So you can really make this page your own. And then I know what other little icons do we have? This just means something has been flagged. So we can click into the transaction here and see the reason. And so, for example, this has been auto flagged because the receipt is maybe doesn't match, or maybe doesn't have things itemized out by different line items. And then what else would be in here? I think it's mainly the flags and the people. So I can just do that. I can also click into the transactions that have the little person and flag or approve them from here. So also it's the office characters if you weren't there yesterday. So Jim, I could flag his transaction. I could approve it. I could click this more. Maybe I could dispute it as well. So same things that you can do in the regular platform with the transactions you can do from here. And by regular platform, it's all the same platform. I meant in the regular transactions tab. So over here. Okay, cool. So hopefully that explains it, Aaron, but let me know if you have more questions about that. Okay, great. A few other things to point out that we get questions about a lot. How do you split transactions? So you can just click the three little dots on the transaction. Let's say we're splitting this one. I would click split transaction. And then from there, I could split it. So I could choose, different accounting categories, whatever it may be. If I need to add another split, I can do so by clicking add another split and then save and continue from there. Another way I can do it, that's the shorter way, is just clicking the three little dots and then split transaction. But if I'm just in the transaction, so again, I just clicked on it kind of anywhere. If I'm just in the transaction, I can scroll down to the accounting section and click split, and that would split the transaction. Okay, cool. And then another thing, much like the regular transaction section, so in that expenses section that we talked about in the Ramp 101, you can search and filter through all of these accounting transactions as well. So it's all the same methods: amount, date, merchant, department, specific cardholder, all of that to find what you're actually looking for. Okay, two more things. So this waiting for cardholder section, this column right here, if I click that, technically these are the transactions that my employees should have coded, or I'm waiting on a receipt or memo or something. I can override that. So as an admin or as a bookkeeper or an accountant, I can override that. So if I want to just, let's say Oscar is traveling, I know he's not going to be able to code this and I want to get it out of Ramp, I can just override it for him, choose travel, and then mark it as ready for him. So it's waiting for the cardholder, but I can always override and code it for them. Okay. How do you get your employees to code? Like, where do you even turn this on? How do you enable this? So we're going to go to settings and then expense policy. And then we're going to click into transaction requirements. And in the Ramp 101 session, I said, okay, accounting, we're skipping it. We're not talking about it today. So we're going to go back into the general expenses. This is just my general expenses, expense policy. And from here, we said the receipt was required. We said the memo, maybe we do require that. I said we'll skip accounting categories. This is us coming back to them. So if you want your employees whose cards are tied to this policy, meaning when you issue the cards, they have to submit the receipt, they have to submit the memo. If you want them to code, so if you want them to choose the accounting category on every transaction, you'll just require this here. So we could say required, and now that's required on, maybe do it on all transactions. So now they have to choose that accounting category on all transactions. So I could click Save Changes. And now I've enabled or required my employees to code the accounting categories. I could also add the other fields, but maybe I leave that off. Maybe they're new to coding. And just to point out where these policies are tied to, I know it's a lot if it's, you're very new to Ramp, maybe this is your first week. So just to show again, if you click Issue Spin and you're making a new card, you would tie the policy here. So if it's that general expenses card that I just did in the example, you would just tie that card here. And now any transaction on this specific card that I'm making, a receipt would be required, the memo would be required since I required both of those, and the employees would have to choose the accounting category on every transaction because I just required that. Okay, cool. And then last thing I think that we get questions about a lot is in the expenses section. Right here where you see this down facing arrow, if I want to download my receipts, I would click this. And then I could click download zip file of receipts. Now, when you export to your accounting system, so when you move those transactions, those coded transactions over to QuickBooks or wherever, it will bring the receipts as well. But if you want to download just the receipts and you don't want to download that whole CSV file of your accounting report or your coded transactions, you want just the receipts, you would go here, so expenses, transactions, down facing arrow, and then download that zip file of receipts. And it would be itemized out by individual cardholder, which is pretty nice. But you can do it even further, and you can do it by a specific date. So if I want to see just like my current statement, which would just be today basically, or my previous statement, anything like that, I can specify that and then download a zip file of those receipts. Or I can go even further and do it by all the different searching and filtering methods from before. So I can go by just transactions with a specific dollar amount, just transactions from a specific team, a specific cardholder, so on and so forth. And if it's not just a cardholder, but multiple things, it would still itemize it out by cardholder. So pretty sweet to be aware of. So back to the accounting section. I think those are the main things that we often get questions about in this session, but just going to look through. Oh, one other thing. When you're syncing, so we'll help automate all of this coding. We're really trying to speed up this process. So when you make these rules, it helps you get through them rather than doing each individual transaction and coding each one. But like, so you can make 2 rules and suddenly have 20 transactions or more in your sync all button. I will say when you're up in the sync all and you're clicking this sync to QuickBooks or sync to accounting, that is something you have to initiate. So we'll help speed everything up, but the actual sync itself, you have to initiate because there are transactions. From the review and sync, only you know if people are truly spending how they should be and following your rules and like your company policies. So you have to initiate that sync, but we'll help speed up everything else. Okay, cool. And so to recap, like what we've talked about today, we talked about how to connect your accounting software, so the kind of start, the getting started. Then we talked about how to set up that Ramp credit card liability account. I recommend calling it Ramp Card, short and sweet. We talked about how to code transactions manually, and then also create those rules at the merchant, category, and card levels. So both in the settings right here, in accounting automation, and then directly on the transactions themselves. And then finally, how to mark transactions as ready and then review them and then sync them over to your ERP. So definitely a lot, but hopefully it's straightforward. It's meant to be and meant to just make your life easier and your month-end close easier and kind of fun too. I mean, at least for me, I'm not an accountant, but when I'm making these rules, I think it's kind of fun. So, and fun to see that sync all button grow pretty quickly. So that is pretty much Ramp Accounting.